Hello, my friend. In this video, I'm going to break down my signature system to help you create a presentation that rocks. Now, I have a 5-beat framework that's called the 5 beats to resonate. And the 5 beats are BEATS, believability and trust, emotional engagement, alignment of values, tone and presence, structure and clarity. Now, I like to imagine that every time I'm presenting, the listeners or my audience members are always having a second conversation in their head. They're having it with themselves. And somewhere in that conversation, all 5 of these elements are floating around in there. So believability and trust is the first. What we want to do is establish credibility. We want to build trust with our audience by sharing like our real life experiences, by sharing the value that we actually bring to our customers or our clients or our community members or whoever that might be that you serve. So there's a way to do this where we could either bake it into our introduction to where somebody else is sharing some accolades, credentials, or whatnot. We can also bake it into our stories. We can share this in our presentation to where maybe we talk about a past client or customer that was, really happy with our services, an experience that you had in your life where you brought value to someone else. And you can do this in a way that uses you and your story, but doesn't make it about you. Now, emotional engagement. Emotional engagement is storytelling. Start with story. When we can share stories about ourselves, maybe personal stories, a situation, a struggle that you overcame, maybe a story about you being a parent or a husband or a wife or a son or a daughter, a real life story that creates a heart-centered connection. I always like to say that heart-centered connections lead to abundant conversions. When we can connect human to human, person to person, heart to heart, then we establish that real emotional connection and people want to lean in. They trust you even more. So all of these 5 beats are connected. When we can create that emotional engagement, it actually builds believability and trust, which leads to the third of the beats, which is alignment of values. Alignment of values is thinking about your audience, thinking about what are their intrinsic motivations? What are they excited about? What are they concerned about? What's in it for them? I always imagine that every listener is coming to the moment and in their head, in their mind, they're thinking, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's the ROI for me paying my most valuable resource, which is my attention to this moment, to this speaker, to this person presenting? What am I going to get back from giving my attention to this person? So I always think about that. It's the privilege of the platform, right? I always look at that as that real value. And when we can align with our listeners' values, we can speak to them in a much deeper way where they feel seen, heard, and validated. So believability and trust, emotional engagement, alignment of values, tone and presence. Tone and presence is all about the way that you deliver, the tempo, the rhythm, the style, the melody. Imagine that when you speak, it's like making music and you're delivering a song. You're delivering a theme song when you speak. What does the inflection feel like, sound like? What is your melody? What is your pitch, your volume, your dynamics? Are you taking it down and then bringing it up, right? Is it interesting for people to hear, imagining your delivery is a theme song? And then the final is the S. Structure and clarity. And this one is so important. So often I see people that come to the table when they have a really great opportunity to present and they want to fire hose their audience with everything they've ever experienced in their life. And I've done this myself. It does not work because then our audience just gets overwhelmed and confused and they don't know what's going on. So my invitation is to imagine that you have one thing you want your audience to leave with. It's called a keynote for a reason. One key note, right? So imagine what is the one thing you want your audience to walk away with? Maybe a feeling you want them to have or an action you want them to take. But to think about that one thing and then to really drive everything back to that one single thing. So we can do that in a structured and clear way. It will resonate with your listeners. So the 5 beats. Believability and trust, emotional engagement, alignment of values, tone and presence, structure and clarity. When you have the dial, when you have the volume turned up on all 5 of these beats, your presentation is going to rock and it's going to resonate in the heads and the hearts of your listeners. Have an amazing day today, my friends, and keep shining your light and spreading the good stuff. All right.